and one straight arm and one bent arm. So this is where we started from when you start making one of these. And then around the end of the bent arm and the straight arm, there's a wrist. And those become sleeves and they come up to the armpits. And around the bent elbow is a place where we're gonna measure. And any place we're gonna measure, I'm gonna draw a little circle with an arrow showing that I wanna know how big around that is. And around the armpit is a place we're gonna measure. And any place we're measuring from point A to point B, but not back again, I'm just gonna draw a little line with two arrows on it, showing that's how I wanna know how big that is. I wanna know how big around is the neck and the biggest place on the head. And then I wanna know how big around is this person's largest measurement of the torso, whether that's the waist down here or the chest up here. And then regardless of gender, the next thing is, this is a tunic shape and it's gonna come down, it's gonna taper out either from the waist or the armpit, depending on body shape. And if it's a masculine style tunic, it's gonna end below the knee, somewhere between the knee and the calf. And if it's a feminine style tunic, or some of the later period, the men also wore the long tunics, then it's gonna come to between the calf and the ankle. That's the only difference in the masculine and feminine garment shape of this period. So this is a basic tunic shape. Those are the measurements we need to make a tunic shape. In addition to this sketch, over here, I'm also gonna draw a square with a diagonal line across it, and that is a measurement we're gonna take. And then for the neck hole of this tunic, that's the only place that we're gonna need a pattern piece, and that's gonna be a circle like this with some lines on it and a name and possibly some numbers. So we're gonna draw a circle over here, and that'll tell us what measurements we need to make that pattern piece. And for the neck hole is a little smaller than your head, so we're gonna make a slit in the front of the garment so that it opens up enough to get the head in. And this is a basic blank measurement style. After that, I'm gonna draw some legs down here. The legs don't really matter. For people wearing pants, the best way is to get some thrifty store pants, and if you can't find some, then we will throw together some basic pants at a different workshop. But this is just all the measurements we need for a tunic or tunic shaped dress for any gender, and that is for the underlayer and the middle layer, and we will get into overlayer patterns next time. Okay, so who wants to take the notes on this one? Here's the photo. Everybody who's watching this, how to take the measurements of a human body to end up with a Viking style tunic. This is the same shape garment for the underlayer and overlayer, and the only difference between the masculine style and the feminine style is the length. So we're gonna do all the body measurements so that you can follow along at home in case you didn't get to come to workshop, and you can get your accurate measurements. We will publish these as soon as we get a chance to. I'm gonna start with a measuring tape, and I'm gonna also need a yardstick or ruler for this process. And a human. And we've got a helpful volunteer taking notes, so that at the end, this will be a page full of measurements that correspond to this person that we can use to make patterns. At any time you're measuring somebody else, especially as somebody that you're not real close to, please ask before touching the person or let them know what you're about to do. So I'm gonna measure around your head. That means I'm gonna take this measurement tape and I'm gonna measure around a couple places on your head until I find the biggest spot. If a person wears glasses, measure them with the glasses on. I'm getting, oops. You wanna find out if their ears or nose need to be the place that is biggest. Okay, so I'm getting 25. So let's write 25 around the head measurement. And then we're gonna measure around the neck. I'm gonna put my hands close to your neck here. We're getting 19 around the neck. And then I'm also, just to check my math on the neck hole, I'm gonna find out how much of the neck hole is in the back of the shoulder seam. This is my shoulder seam right here, at the highest part of the person, right here. So I'm gonna take this measuring tape and go from that spot to the other, and around the back of the neck is gonna be 9. And then I wanna feel your shoulders, and where the boniest part at the top of your shoulder is the highest point, I'm gonna put the measuring tape here and run it across the back of the neck to the other side of the same spot. I'm getting 18 across the shoulders. And Then I want my model to make a bent arm, like so, and I'm gonna use this same spot on the shoulder and run it around the back of the elbow, across the biggest, boniest part of the elbow, and I'm gonna come down the arm, and I wanna measure to about that thumb joint right here, and that is my sleeve length, which is 28 on this person. Now straighten out your arm for me, and if I had measured the arm straight, it would be too short, because then I would have measured 26, and so whenever you bend your arms, it would get too short. So we're gonna go with 28 there. Now if you'll keep your arm bent for me, please. Oh, I need you to make a fist. The hole at the end of your sleeve needs to be big enough to put your hand through, and that is 12 inches. And then around the elbow is 13, and I need to find out what is the biggest part of this arm. Is it the bent elbow, the bicep, or right up near the armpit? And that's different for some people. So I'm gonna measure all of them and use the biggest one. Around the bent elbow is 13, around the bicep I'm getting 14, and around the upper arm I'm getting 17. So we're gonna use 17 around the top of this arm. And then the next thing I'm gonna do to make sure that it fits around the shoulder and there's plenty of range of motion is take that bony spot at the top of the shoulder again, put the measuring tape on it. I'm gonna reach under your arm and grab the tape and wrap it around. And this is where your rotator cuff muscles hold your arm onto your body. And we're measuring what's called the arm sky, A-R-M-S-C-Y-E. That's the hole in your garment where the sleeve attaches and your arm comes out. And the way we get a good measurement for that and make sure it's gonna be big enough is, see, if I started just this tight, it would be like 25, but I need you to make big windmill motions with your arm and then stop. And it opened up to 26. So this is 26 around the arm sky. And that's gonna be the size of the sleeve plus the armpit gusset. We'll get to armpit gussets in a minute, don't faint. Now what I'm gonna do is ask you to raise your arms up, and I'm gonna reach around your body and put the measuring tape around your torso. So, gotta get in close here. Use a buddy if you can't reach around the person. And I'm gonna get you to take a deep breath, and that makes the measurement different. And we've got 47, and then we're gonna come down here and get this one. Take a deep breath for me. 47 again. And just in case, I wanna check to make sure what is the biggest part around the person, because sometimes you're bigger around in the tummy than your chest. Well, right now we've got 47, and that is our biggest measurement. And I'm gonna also get your waist measurement, and then how high is the height between your armpit and your waist. So let me get around your middle again. And in order to find somebody's natural waist, because this is different on every body, you put a string or a measuring tape around, and then wherever it, lean over to the side for me, wherever that wrinkle is on the side, that is gonna be, stand up, that's gonna be where your natural waist bends. And that's usually higher on people than they think, because we're used to wearing our pants down here and we think that's our waist. Our natural waist is higher than we think it is. And I'm getting 44 around the waist. And that waist height is 9 inches below the armpit. And if you make that too long, it might be too tight around right here. So we're gonna aim high and go from the arm. I'm getting 9 inches from the armpit to the waist. The waist point is where we're gonna put in the part where it flares out to the side. So we don't need the rest of these measurements for this garment. Everything else is irrelevant. We needed the head, the neck, the shoulders, all of the measurements to make the sleeve fit and make the body fit. And then we're gonna get a garment similar to this shape. This one actually belongs to me, ta-da-da-da-da. And it's got a neck hole. Either the neck hole is big enough to get your head in, or if your head is much bigger than your neck, we're gonna use this method where there's a hole that fits around your neck with a little slit in the front so that it opens up big enough to get your head in. And that is how you take the measurements, and we will publish this video and publish this page so that you see how to write it all down. And if there's anybody that didn't get to come to workshops, you can take your measurements and have these ready for the next time you come. Thanks. Okay, put your arm down. You're good. You're given. Let go. between 8.5 and 16.5. So you've got an 8-inch diagonal on your square gusset. We're gonna write 8 inches on the square shape. Measure this yarl, part 2. In order to get your hand through the end of your sleeve, you want to measure however that person puts their shirts on. Sometimes it's with a closed hand and sometimes with a fist. If you ever want to roll your sleeve up because you're doing dishes or working with things that are dirty, then just take the forearm measurement all the way down to the wrist. But if this is a tight-fitting long sleeve, you need it to be big enough that their hand can go through. So take your 0 of the measuring tape and go around a fist, and I'm getting 12. That means that your wrist is gonna fit like this. So we're gonna put that on your measurement sheet, 12. And then, last but not least, 2 more things. We need to measure under the armpit. Take a rigid ruler or yardstick, push it all the way up to the wearer's armpit and put the arm down until it holds it in place. Then with my 2 hands, I'm gonna see exactly how much ruler is covered by arm flesh and then let go. And however many inches is between that, which between 16 and 22 is 6, that is the diagonal across the square of the armpit. And if you'll bring the camera over here, this is the square armpit gusset that we're measuring for. However much arm covered the ruler is how far it is across the diagonal of that square. And that gives us stretch up and down and stretch for this movement front and back. So that's how we measure for this. And one more thing, to get the length of your garment, start at the highest point of the shoulder, which is usually right next to the neck. We're gonna try once in the back and once in the front to discover how long this needs to be. Put my 0 of my measuring tape at this highest point. I'm gonna use the back of my hand to run down your back with the measuring tape until it hits the waist, and then hold it there and run it down to, for masculine tunic, below the knee or as long as the calf, somewhere in this range. And you would maybe make your under tunic a little longer so it shows out from under your over tunic in case you have pretty embroidery or trim. So you're gonna come back down here. I'm getting 49 in the back, but I'm gonna use the longer of 2 measurements. So in case somebody's longer in the front, put the 0 point right up here. Take a deep breath for me. See how the chest lifts? That's gonna affect the length. I'm gonna put my hand right here around the waist. And then look at that same point. Where's your kneecap? There's your kneecap. Okay, I'm getting 48 in the front, so we're gonna use 48. And if you put your camera over here on the tunic, that is how long we're gonna make this fabric from the top of the shoulder down to the bottom of the hem. This is mine and I'm not 48 long, I'm short. So that's why we need that measurement right here. And then on the tunic, when you get your fabric, your neck hole pattern will be used to trace around more of your neck is in front and less of your neck is in the back. And so there will be a little line across it, and however much neck is in the back, that's where we measured. And you'll cut here. Your total head measurement needs to be able to fit in the distance from around the back of the neck hole down to the slit. And that's how you know how long to make the slit in the front of your tunic, so that it can fit around the neck with a pretty little jewelry pin right here and still be big enough for your head to go through. It is possible to just make the hole big enough for your head to go through, but then for some people, the neckline will be really wide. You can get cold here or show off a modern bra strap by accident or have it slip over to the side one. So for the winter tunics, we're gonna make the neck pretty close to your actual neck hole and use a slit so your head can get in. Your wrist measurement goes here. The arm sky measurement, where we went around the rotator cuff, is gonna be this measurement here around the top of the sleeve and big enough to go around the armpit. So arm sky is sleeve plus armpit gusset. What we measured with the ruler is how far across to make this square shaped gusset for stretch in the armpit so that we have wide range of movement. The chest measurement is where we measured here. It needs to be big enough around for the chest with a deep breath. The waist is where we measured here. And your natural waist is where we're gonna start a triangle piece on the side called a gore. The side gore makes the tunic flare out so that when you walk, it billows around the knees and does not bind you like a skinny tube at the knees, so we can still walk. And the full length of fabric is here. And when we get our fabrics, we're gonna measure how big to make these side gores by putting a measuring tape here where the waist measurement was. Between the armpit and the waist, we took that measurement. And we're gonna measure there to the hem and then make a triangle big enough to set in the side. That's a side gore. And I think that's all the measurements that we need, right? For a feminine garment, we're gonna measure the length somewhere between the calf muscle and the ankle, like so. And that is the only difference between the masculine shape garment and the feminine shape garment for our purposes in this period. Thanks for watching. Catch you at the next workshop.